Thank you, Jesus, for your patience with me on the first ever guest appearance of Boost Up English live.
I'm all good. I'm all good, man.
You guys, come on in, hit the like button. You guys get ready for Jesus to teach you guys about how to hear the language like a native coming from a non-native speaker to a native speaker. You guys, this is an important live. You guys don't want to miss out on these tips. So now that we're finally live here, the sound is good. Jesus, why don't you let the people know who you are and what you do, man?
All right, so let me try to give you the brief introduction here. So my name is Jesús Flórez. I'm 36 and I live in America. I'm from Colombia in South America. I was born and raised in Barranquilla, and I've been here in the U.S. since 2015. Came here to marry my then fiance. She's my wife now. We have 4 kids. I work in an office in the local court, circuit court, and I do online stuff occasionally on the side. But I am an English teacher by training and an accent coach by, well, I guess additional training.
Okay, great, man. So you've been there for just, I mean, as long as I've been here, basically. I got to Colombia in 2014.
And that is remarkable because our stories are basically mirror images of each other. I've been here since 2015. You've been there since 2014. I mean, I just completed here. It was exactly 11 years on July 1st of 2015.
Okay, great, man. And did you say your wife's from Barranquilla as well?
No, she was born and raised here in Battle Creek.
Ah, okay, okay. You guys are on the west side
Yeah,
of the
West
state.
Michigan. And I think you're from East Michigan, right?
Yeah, I mean, like it's. I think it's more mid. They call it mid Michigan. Like Lansing,
What's
East
the name of the
Lansing.
place? Oh, Lance. Yeah. That's mid. Yeah. Yeah. Your
Yeah.
zip code is a 48 something. Ours is a 49.
Okay. Exactly. Like I think East is more like more Detroit, the thumb area.
Typically, yep. Yeah. We'll be like right here, more
this
or
guy,
less.
this guy knows his stuff. That's you guys. If you don't know, that's how you give directions in Michigan. Yeah, you guys turn this way and go up this way. And if you ask someone in
Yeah.
Michigan for directions, they'll show you the palm of their hand. So that's the evidence that he's there. So I mean, like, had you been? What was it like when you made the transition? Had you? I mean, I'm assuming you've been to America before, but had you actually been to Michigan before, or how did that go for you?
Yes, it was took some time to adjust, as you can expect. I had already been here in the U.S. at least one time before I. Let me just give a bit more of a background here. So my wife and I were in a long distance relationship for about a year and a half before I came here to meet her in person and decide if we wanted to continue the relationship. That was in 2014 when I first came here to visit. But I had already been here in the U.S. in Texas in
Hmm.
2013. I
Okay.
went there for a teachers convention
Yeah.
for English as a second language education.
Okay.
So I already had that experience one time prior. But no, it was my first time in Michigan in 2014, 12 years ago.
And it was the summertime when you got there.
It was September 2nd. Yeah, it was still summer.
Okay, this is like kind of like Bogota weather a little bit or something. Like,
Well, you know what? I've been here now long enough to realize that the summertime, I mean, it's just it is it gets hot and humid too.
yeah, Michigan gets real humid because of the Great Lakes. You guys don't know Michigan is like surrounded by some of the biggest bodies of fresh water here, so there's a lot of humidity. Unlike, well, I mean, in Barranquilla there's humidity, but lots of places in Colombia not because there's so high up in the mountains, like where I am.
More of a dry.
Yeah,
Yeah,
near
this is not dry heat
Medellin.
for sure.
Okay, and so I mean, Texas and Michigan is not similar at all. I mean, how was your English when you got there? I mean, I know you knew English. You guys know English, but it's not like actually getting there and having to use English, right?
Well, that was interesting back then. I haven't talked about this in a long time actually. When I first went to Texas, my expectation was to hear English everywhere. But I was actually shocked by how much Spanish I heard
Yeah.
uh, on the streets.
I've heard that. What is like San Antonio or
No, I went to Dallas.
Dallas? Okay. All right.
Yep.
And in Michigan, I mean, there's not, I mean, I don't know, maybe it's changed recently, but I don't think there's very many. There's some communities, but I mean, you have to really search to find people that speak Spanish, I think.
Mm, yeah, I mean, it really varies by location. Right here, where we live in Battle Creek, I feel that there's enough of a presence
Okay.
of Spanish-speaking communities, so you don't really have to, you know, look too hard to find them.
Okay.
But the vast majority is native English speakers for sure.
Yeah. I mean, I know where I'm from, like, I know kids that I went to school with whose parents are like from Mexico and barely speak English, and these kids don't speak Spanish.
Yeah.
Because there's just no place to speak Spanish. I mean, it has to do with the weather, the economy, things like that. It's just not a lot of Latinos immigrating up that far north. So, what was like? I mean, what was some of the things that stood out to you when you actually started living? Because visiting is not the same as living. Like, what were some of the biggest adjustments? I mean, for you coming from Colombia to Michigan and permanently.
Probably some of the typical reactions that people have to lifestyle, and probably one thing that I actually wrote down here was that this is the classic observation of American individualism,
Hmm.
rugged individualism. Because, I think, just to use the terms from sociology here, in general, South American countries tend to be more collective, more of a, tend to be more collectivistic.
Yeah.
And so there's a greater emphasis on, I want to say, family unit and cohesion. Here is definitely much more about, you carving out your own way, making it, doing things
Yeah.
your way. So yeah, that took some adjusting, but I already feel that I was already kind of there.
Okay.
My individual personality, I think, in a way, aligned more closely with that. So I want to say that I fit in right from the get go. Other than
Interesting.
that, one of the probably harder things to get used to was the population size here.
Uh-huh.
I'm from Barranquilla. That's a like major metropolis.
Yeah.
Here, where I live, this has the feeling. This has the feel of a small town. That's taken some real adjusting to.
Yeah.
I'm used to teeming, bustling streets.
Yeah.
Here, it's pretty quiet a lot of the time.
Yeah. Well, everything's spread out, right? I mean, like even if you had the same
Yes.
population size, I mean, everything is, so far apart, designed for cars, whereas you could take the same population in Colombia and, you got, 15 panaderias here and like,
Yeah, exactly.
barbererias and like 100 tattoo shops just in a 4 block radius, 8 corner stores.
You realize very quickly that Americans really love their space.
Well, I'll tell you, that's one of the cultural adjustments that not just me. I mean, I was here with people that had never been here before, and like, we really had to get it adjusted to the personal space stuff. Like, we're in Bogota and we're walking, and like every single second is like, you're getting on the Transmilenio. It's like you feel beat up
Yeah.
after the end of the
Yeah,
day.
you do, you do. Sometimes I think that it's probably harder for you to adjust, to that coming from this background. I mean, at least that's the impression that I have. Would you say that it was like that for you?
I mean, I can't say how hard or not it was for you, but I mean, I know that like there's things that happen on a daily basis in Colombia, especially when you're in large groups that would people would fight over, or I mean, even driving. I mean, people there's things that people do here that like if that happened in America, you would get out of your car and there would be a fight right there on the road each time. But here you just got to understand, like, all right, man, this is what like no one else is getting mad. Like, so you can't. There's no reason for you to get mad, and you just understand it. Don't take it personal. It's just how it is. But in America, we're used to standing our ground, having our space. The independence as well. People. It's like I don't need help with that. Too much. Like for example, you go into a store. It's like, hey, what are you looking for? How can I help you? Right? Right? ¿Qué buscan a la orden? ¿Cómo te puedo colaborar? It's like, I want to
Uh-huh.
look a little bit before I start talking to you, right? And then, they kind of
Yeah.
walk with you around in the store. It's like, I can't think, leave me alone.
Yeah.
So those are some things that I've had to learn. I mean, and obviously it's not maybe not my preference, but I just you understand what's going to happen, or even walking into a store when you go in and in America you're just like, hey, give me two Snickers and a Slurpee, and here if you just walk into the store and you start asking for stuff, they're gonna look at you. It's gonna be like this kind of weird awkwardness. You got to say good morning, like hey, how's it going, or some kind of presentation, right, to just establish like the connection, and then the transaction goes so much more smoothly. But in America, they'll just throw the stuff at you. Here, take the Skittles, and they just go.
Yeah, yeah.
So
Just get her done and get out of here.
basically, the less words, the most. And here is like there's always an elaborate explanation. Or I mean, I think Spanish works like that as well. I don't know if it's a combination of the culture and the language, but it's like you know, I'll tell you one thing that I don't like now, still to this day. When someone's explaining something to me, right? And I speak Spanish, but like I don't consider myself like like I don't know. I still have to focus. I still have my struggles with
Mhm.
some pronunciation, some words. So I'm listening and they'll speak and they'll tell me, they'll start explaining, and I'm following the indirectness. And after 1 or 2 minutes of explaining, they say, es decir. And I'm like, well, why wouldn't you just tell me this part in the beginning? When you say es decir, it means like it's to say, they say it's to say, and then they summarize like this whole big
Yeah.
story that they just told.
Oh,
So
yeah, definitely. You're gonna find, I mean, you know this firsthand now. The communication style is kinda circuitous. Here, it's
mhm.
direct.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, did you find any struggles with that, with the directness, or you just easy for you?
No, I think that I was already ready, for it. I had a very, I had a enduring interest in American culture, going back a lot of years, and so I had a lot of
Okay.
I think I had a very good understanding of what to expect going into it,
Okay.
and I had some really good books to read, way back in the day. So I think I was totally ready for it.
Interesting. Not me, man. I did not know what to expect. So
So how'd you get there? I mean, I don't really have a sense of a backstory here for you. So how'd you end up in Colombia?
I mean, like it was just I had lived in Washington D.C. for like 5 years, and I was just ready to move, and I was thinking about going to the West Coast or something, and then I had like an older friend that was like just told me, he was like, you know what I regret not doing when I was young was traveling. And
Oh, yeah.
so I had thought about it before, but not that serious. But I had a friend whose father sent him on like after college on like some kind of mission trip, like it's kind of like a reward punishment or something, to Colombia to do like I don't know, work in schools and stuff, like in like the comunas or something. I don't know. But so he had been
Yeah.
around a lot of South America, and I just
Mhm.
kind of asked him like, what would be a good place to check out, see how it is, and he told me, I told him, he said Colombia is probably the best match. I mean, least cultural adjustment, proximity to the U.S. So I went to a couple countries before I got to Colombia. I got a job teaching in Bogota, um, and then that's how I started learning Spanish, because I mean I really didn't know more than a few words when I got here. So Bogota was probably the easier transition, because I mean you can find a lot of people that speak English here or in Bogota. It's the
Yes.
capital, right? They've got the economy, the education. I mean, not to say other places don't, but it's probably more concentrated. Um,
Definitely,
yeah,
it's one of the main hubs in the country for that, even more so than any other place, and it being the capital helps a lot too.
yeah, exactly. So I started teaching English, started trying to learn Spanish, um, and that's kind of basically how I started getting into pronunciation as well, because I would learn words, and then like people didn't understand me, and then like typical American style, I would just get angry, right, and like say it more forcefully, and, it still didn't work.
Mhm.
And then it's like, all right, you got to kind of come to this realization. I'll never forget, once I was doing un recargo in my phone, like adding some minutes to my phone, and I
Yeah,
was reading
that was the
my
thing.
phone number to the lady, and I said 310 501 2009. and I said Bente, and she started walking away from the machine and coming towards me because I said Bente. And so she started coming towards me, and I was like, "What are you doing? No, stay over there. Like, do the recarga," because there's just like this small little difference of, Ben means come, right, and te is kind of like a
Yeah,
pronoun for
yeah.
you. So she heard like you come, like probably not grammatically
Like
correct,
Khmer,
but
yeah,
instead of
yeah,
bente, I need to say bente,
yeah.
bente, right? And so like these are the
You were
things you
missing
start to
that glide
realize.
there. Yeah, you totally missed that glide in the sound. Yeah.
And then
Wow.
also like I had students because I was teaching corporate. I was teaching in like Ernst and Young or like Colmotores, which is like the GM of Colombia, or like Bank Colombia, and like these people had really high levels, and it was like you guys don't really need English classes, but like they couldn't do things like they couldn't pronounce simple past tense, right?
Yeah.
It was physically impossible for them to do. So I started like figuring like, well, why can't they do that? And I can, So kind of went into this like deep dive thing where it's like,
Yeah.
wow, it's a really whole different mechanical way of using your body to create these sounds. And I did a lot of experimentation, guess and check, collaborations, and just work with other people to finally, after 10 plus years, form my own methodology.
Yeah, you have yeah, you've made your own brand.
Yeah.
I've been checking a lot of, in preparation to today, I actually spent a good amount of time watching your replays from past lives and
Okay.
some of your other breakdown videos. We'll get into that in just a minute here. Um, my mm, my foray into pronunciation is actually kind of interesting because I started learning English the same way that most people do, and that is that it started way back in elementary school, first grade, but there's not really a whole lot of it that sticks, unfortunately.
Yeah.
There is probably a much more formative experience, and that happens when I was 14,
Mhm.
because that was the first time that I got to go to one of these independent language schools. My mom insisted that I go to one of these things, and I went, and I loved it actually. The teachers, they were amazing. Some of them had lived in the US back in the 90s, and they were all extremely fluent. A lot of them sounded American, so they really got that down. And that starts, let's say, that learning in earnest. And then after I graduate high school, I got this idea that I wanted to, because I when I graduated high school, I didn't know exactly what to study. So I spent about better part of a year or two trying to figure that out. Eventually, I decided to go for an education degree. Yeah, my major was in education. Um, and when I was 18, I thought that in order to make myself stand out from the rest, I needed to do something. And that something for me was a pronunciation journey, deep dive into it. Like I really want to get deep into the weeds here. What is it that makes native English different?
Yeah.
And that started there. Now, fast forward all these years, I actually faced a bit of a crossroads, when it came to finding out a niche for teaching, because there are English teachers online aplenty. I mean, there's so many of us out there. It's really hard to stand. I mean, it is really hard to make yourself, special.
Yes.
And I had actually thought about this seriously. I thought about going into exam preparation, IELTS, TOEFL, and
Mhm.
others, because that is extremely popular as
Yeah.
well. But in the end, I decided to go with pronunciation training, accent training, because I was definitely much more in my element there. I
Yeah.
spent a lot of time going over, and if I may, I want to show these two here
Yeah.
briefly. The very first, uh, my very first training in the American accent was through Ann Cook's
Okay.
method, American accent training. It's now in its fourth edition.
Okay.
And then Mastering the American Accent by Lisa Moisen in its second edition. That was the foundation. Those
Wow.
are the books that taught me the American accent.
Wow. I mean, that's that. I'm sorry to interrupt. I mean, that's that. I mean, to me, it's still, from all my experience teaching people to hear the language, whether they're Spanish speakers or I've worked with basically every, you know, every main language that's out there. Reading has nothing to do with teaching yourself how to hear. So how did you make bridge like close that
The
gap?
gap, yeah, sure, it's easy because all of these have well, audio CDs. Now it's MP3 files. So
Okay,
there's these are like audiobooks, basically. So yeah, absolutely. There's we're learn. I learned it through my ears, as you can expect. And Lisa, Moisen has this book basically in video format. So she
okay.
has that medium as well.
Interesting. I mean, but still, even with that, because like I would say, at least half of what I do, like I will demo a sound, but if they see the letters, your
Oh yeah,
brain
it
just
messes them up. Yeah,
overrides what you hear. So I mean, you did this on your own without someone saying like, no, Jesus, no, not was, not was.
was.
Like
Yeah,
that's
no,
incredible to me.
it is, and and I'll say this much, looking back, I kind of wish that at the beginning I had had some kind of a tutor or mentor,
Yeah,
because I feel that I would have made progress way more quickly. There was a
yeah,
lot of trial and error, in my experience,
yeah.
but I was fortunate and quite blessed to be in a setting where I had access to native speakers to
Okay,
kind of like experiment
yeah,
with. Peace Corps used to have volunteers in Barranquilla.
okay.
And there was a conversation club that went on for a few years. I was very active
Mhm.
in it, and I use that as a, kind of like a lab of sorts. I went there to test all of these things that I was,
I see.
that I was learning. And as far as I can remember, every single time, the message landed perfectly.
Okay. Okay. Yeah. I mean that's feedback I get as well. Like even when my students start nailing something in the class, like they'll take a trip to the US and they'll be like, "Teacher, it really worked." I'm like, "Yeah, yeah, I know. That's
Yeah,
why we've been working on it for the last 4
exactly.
months."
Absolutely.
But yeah, it's
But yeah,
that real, when it actually works in real life, it's the biggest teacher for sure.
yeah. And that's why, and I do believe that it is possible to replicate a lot of this nowadays with the AI chatbots and language models, but it's just not the same
Mhm.
as having a real flesh and blood human being in front of you,
Yeah.
just talking, interacting.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I know a lot of my students are like programmers, IT guys, and you know, they all want to jump on the next AI app, and most of them have tried several of them before they end up coming to me. And there's things like those things can help you, but there's big pieces that they can those I don't know the program is just not trained to do. I mean, I think I don't think that the technology doesn't exist, but I just think it's a combination of the investment, the way that they're training, who they're basing their training off, their training models off of. But like for example, like I know that there's no app out there that can teach you how to hear and create placement of a
Yeah,
voice.
not to my knowledge
Doesn't
either. Yeah,
exist.
that
Yeah.
Rachel, and I know that you work for her.
Mm.
Rachel has been, um, it's interesting. I applied 3 or some years ago, for a teaching position,
Okay.
there. I recorded my intro
Yeah.
video. I I was not, you know they didn't take me, obviously, otherwise
Yeah.
you would have seen me already, around
Sure.
there. But no, she really has built the most comprehensive, uh, pronunciation training, accent training, resource in the world. No one else comes close to
Yeah.
what she's accomplished. And she has been beating that drum of placement for years.
Hmm.
And I know you do too. And and actually, if I may, just say something here real quick. It's interesting. Not everyone that goes into something like this speaks to placement as much as you guys do,
Hmm.
or you, or Jeff Anderson from Fluent American, or Patrick Bateman and others.
Hmm.
Moisen doesn't go into that really. Ann Cook did go into that, about voice quality, placement, resonance, speaking from the diaphragm and that kind of thing.
Yeah.
And so that seems to be kind of like, a maybe last 10, 15 years, that we've seen that shift
Yeah.
from segmental, which is which we use in linguistics for the individual sounds, to suprasegmentals, the ecosystem where these sounds are interacting and
Yeah.
coexisting. Um, yes, to my knowledge, there isn't anything out there yet, that teaches you placement the way that you do it or the way that Rachel does it and
Yeah.
others, like you.
Yeah. I mean, it's really challenging. I think that and it's kind of abstract to think about. It's hard to get just say,
I've
well,
used the
just
same
do this
terms.
and this,
Yeah,
then you have
yeah,
placement. Like it doesn't work like
it
that. I
doesn't
know,
work that way.
a lot of in the past, I've seen, I can't remember the guy's name, but he used to train a lot of Hollywood actors back in the, like, I don't know, 60s and 70s, but they work a lot on intonation and things like that. But the placement and the musicality, I think Rachel really put it together because she's a trained opera singer,
Yeah,
and that really helped her connect those things. So I would agree, and she's helped me understand more in different ways, and I think I've helped them. And everybody hears things and looks at them, and the more you guys we talk about it together, I think the more um, clarity we can put around it. But without the reality is that without having placement, there's some sounds that you will never be able to achieve, and you're always going to sound different because we don't actually, I say this all the time, we don't actually listen to letter by letter, right? We're listening to the connection, the inside of the body. So yeah, and it's not something that happens quickly either, right? And so you have to
no,
be so a person is willing to go through, just like the gym, a training system. But I agree, Rachel has put it together, and I think she's one of the first people to put videos of pronunciation on YouTube. So you
it
guys
might have
check
been.
out Rachel's English. You guys get 10% off for life if you use my coupon code Josh10.
Yeah, there you go.
um,
So
but
yeah, I think that takes us neatly into, we can segue right here into the biggest struggles that Spanish speakers have with American English. There's so much to say here.
yeah,
Um, I did write down a couple of things. You've talked a lot about this, and I've also seen it. Now, for full disclosure here, I haven't had a private client to date. I only have my YouTube and Instagram content, and it's sporadic, but I'm open to someone.
well, I'm sure you've
I have a
helped
preference.
people. I mean, casually, right? I mean, it's
Yeah,
not that
yeah,
different.
but not professionally as
Sure.
the way that you're doing it. But yeah, rhythmic contrast. It's a big one,
Yeah.
and that goes hand in hand with that weakening of unstressed syllables.
Mm,
I actually listened back to your accent analysis sections of your lives,
mm,
previous lives, the ones that were about Spanish speakers,
yeah.
the one from Colombia, one from Spain, and you still and it's so hard to because all of that is based on spelling. The spelling is the thing, as you said, that overrides, your
Yeah.
brain and makes you want to, give that unstressed syllable shape
Yeah.
instead of just letting the pathway, just using the pathway of the
Yep.
voice,
Yep.
just very simple, just right there.
Hmm.
So hard to get. And that is one of the hardest things to. That's one of the hardest habits to kick
Yeah.
when you're trying to do this. Um, Other than that, you run into some of the more traditional or more kind of like run of the mill problems like voicing consonants at the ends of words
Hmm.
or s in between vowel sounds. I mean, that's kind those things kind of you can kind of get away with those to an extent, but
Yeah.
when it comes to understanding, it's so important that you really slow down on the important things and
Yeah.
you rush through what's unimportant.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, it's got to be more obvious than most Spanish speakers' ears will even accept as appropriate. Like,
And as you were doing just now, that reduction of that one that you were doing earlier, during the warm up,
yeah,
and during the live, I love that one because that was one that I learned, and I'm telling you, once you learn it, you cannot unhear it.
yeah,
Everybody does it, dropping H's and THs,
yeah,
and it makes it so much smoother.
It's a quick hack
And,
that you
like,
could get a quick win from. Yeah.
yeah,
Hmm.
absolutely. That's one that you can start using right away.
Hmm.
And you really and you have no idea how quickly it improves your intelligibility
Yeah.
with your, with your listener. I mean,
Yeah.
it does wonders for it.
Absolutely. Yeah. I mean, I would just go even further with what you're saying about rhythmic contrast, like accepting, just to allow that voice to flow from the body. It's, the one thing I think that is another hack. It's not a quick hack, but it's a kind of a, you can jump some steps a little bit, is, you have to force yourself to listen to the language differently. So what do I mean by that? Is that, I mean, you might have seen me, demonstrating, for example, like parque, right? Parque, right? My favorite, parce, right? But your ears, the Spanish speakers, want to hear that crisp, clean, nice, perfect consonant sound. And that is totally disruptive to what our ears are trying to follow. And when you're doing these consonant sounds, that is the mouth. Pa, pa, pa. So it's really hard to come back and pa, connect back down here if you're saying pa, right? And so, like, one thing that you have to really understand is that, like, you have to follow a different part of the sound, right? You can't follow, because most people start out, you just listen like a beginner. I've done it. We've all done it, where you're just trying to find the sounds that your ears can lock onto the most in a conversation just to survive. And that leads the Spanish speakers to listen to every single consonant. So, like, if you want to listen to a Spanish speaker, you'll listen to them something like this, and if the consonant sounds would start coming out like that, right? And, like, we are just going to go through those consonant sounds and focus on the vowels. So you have to really intentionally focus on listening to the language in a different way, than your native language, because and I think it's harder in some ways for Spanish English, because our alphabet is so similar. And you look at the letter, you say, "Oh yeah, I know that one. I know the schwa." Ah, ah. Like, no, 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 no. That's not a schwa. That I think that's one of the biggest ones. And you have, and the reason, another reason why it's hard for the Spanish speaker to make those unstressed syllables small, is because you need, when you generate those strong consonants, you need a minimum amount of force to push. Pa, pa. It's hard to do pa, like this hard, but down here, pa, 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 you can control a lot more from the diaphragm, length, pitch, volume, and space that way. Um, so yeah, those
Yep,
that's
absolutely.
what I think, is the hardest thing. And it's the same for us as coming to Spanish. You hear us, the Americans coming down to Colombia. ¿Cómo estás? Me llamo Josh. ¿Y tú cómo te llamas? Like that.
Yeah.
And we'll throw those
Yeah,
schwas
it's
in there
interesting.
too.
Yeah, yeah, because you're doing. I mean, you're gonna be doing the same thing kind of in reverse.
Yeah.
You have to raise that placement, to get something that sounds, you know, closer to what we're used to hearing in Spanish. Yes, absolutely. Even, I'm doing a lot more. I'm speaking Spanish a whole lot more lately, that I decided to make my content on Instagram and YouTube fully bilingual.
Hmm.
And I'm doing a video call with my parents every Saturday afternoon. So there's a lot of that going on there too. And I've noticed, definitely one of the things that you get used to is that you'll sound different depending on what language it is, and
Yeah.
even within those languages, what accents you're
Yeah.
trying to either take on, or whatever it is that you're used to. I mean, my non-expert, well, I have some
You're
expertise,
expert. You
not
lived
as
it.
much.
You lived it, man. This that is expertise, dude.
Well, probably I don't have the experience, but I can tell you that at least to my ears, obviously placement in American English is typically something that is much more grounded and deep and resonant. In
Mhm.
Spanish, it's different. It's way more forward in the mouth and very high and
Mhm.
kind of tight as well. It doesn't have
Yeah.
that big open feeling that American English has.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's that switching between the two, and sometimes it's so noticeable.
Yeah.
Yeah, so they're very different. That's one of the things that I had to overcome, which is that, that discomfort of sounding completely different. This doesn't sound like my regular. It doesn't sound like me. It is still me, but the placement is, like worlds apart.
Yeah.
When it comes to where they coming from.
Yeah, and I mean, the reality is, I mean, if you want to make this change, you have to do something that feels drastically different. I mean, if you're not doing something that feels drastically different in the beginning, you're doing the same thing. And obviously, like this different accent is not within your comfort zone when you start out. So you have to create a new comfort zone with this, whether it's going up for Spanish, coming down for English, or whatever other language it is. So, I think one thing that really shows if you're on the high levels if you can just switch back and forth. Right now, I'm always impressed with the people that speak Spanish or sorry speak English and then they say a Spanish word and says boom comes out perfect Spanish and they go right back to English or vice versa. I said that is total control over your placement of voice right
Yeah,
there.
complete mastery over it. Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
yeah, definitely. And sometimes, mm, I don't know if this happens to you, but it does happen to me. Um, if I've been speaking one language for a little while during the day, and then I have to, get into the other one, it's almost like it's almost like I like to use I like to use the analogy of an engine sputtering, when you try to start your vehicle. Because that's exactly how I feel. I feel like my brain is sputtering, to go from one to the other,
Yeah,
to switch. And sometimes the placement is off, as in there is just something that feels weird about the way that I just said this or
yeah,
the other. And so it takes a little bit of time for that to, it takes a little bit of time to, do that vocal matching from one placement to the other.
yeah. Um, Absolutely. I mean, I find myself like stumbling like like Spanish falling into my classes sometimes when I'm trying to I don't know that's Spanish or if I'm talking to my girlfriend like oh sorry that was English like let me back up let me start over so it is confusing because I started learning Spanish when I was 31 and before that I knew maybe 3 or 4 words mamacita taco like stuff that just doesn't even is not even really useful. I mean, taco is really useful in Medellin because that's how they say traffic. Like I mucho taco.
Yeah.
All right, so Jesus, if you all right with all your experience, everything you know now, if you were going to start from scratch, learning American pronunciation and listening to American English, where would you start if you were going to start all over again from scratch?
Probably with voice quality. Um, that's where I started.
Okay.
I'd probably do it all over again. And nowadays, there's just an overabundance of resources, that'll really drill down, when it comes to that, the placement, the voice quality, and the resonance. And there are many approaches, that you can take. You can either go with what you typically say about, bringing the voice, up from the diaphragm through the path of the voice.
Mhm.
There's this idea also. I don't know if you've heard about Dr. David Allen Stern. He's also a
That's who I
dialect
was trying to
coach.
talk about before. Yeah.
Yeah, so Stern has coined this term called mid-tongue muscularity.
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
had- I didn't know about that one.
Yeah.
And I think it's probably another way to try to understand, where the vocal energy is coming from. But
Yeah.
everyone seems to agree that in general, American English has a low placement and a relaxed feeling. And with that, you have the weakening of consonant sounds
Yep.
and the strengthening of the vowel sounds. So I would definitely start there again.
Yeah.
There's a lot, that you can draw or gain
Yeah.
from that, and then from then on, you just start, adding whatever it is, that you need. I want to say that there's a lot of overlap, depending on what language you're coming from. So it may or may not be so hard to pick up on the individual. sounds, but the base, but that foundation, the ecosystem, that is totally different.
Yeah.
And, other than that, maybe some basic breathing and vocal warm up exercises. You have a
Mm,
few on your channel. I know that Rachel does that too.
mm,
And I think everybody else, does that also.
yeah.
So
Yeah.
there, I would start with that. Unfortunately, the thing about placement is that it is a little bit nebulous. It's not, it's not a part of your vocal apparatus that you can point at.
Yeah.
Like it's not the gum ridge, it's not the soft palate, it's not the hard palate. It's
Yeah.
none of that.
Yeah.
It's where all of these sounds are coexisting, and so that
Yeah.
takes some, it takes some time to come to grips with that. But once you get it, you unlock it.
Yeah. Definitely.
You'll unlock it.
So you guys heard it there, right? I mean, what he's saying basically is you have to change what your ears are paying attention to, right? Your ears paying attention to sounds and the contact, the perfect contact of the mouth, right? The pushing of the mouth, or are you paying attention to the vibration, the resonance, the shape of the breath and the music as it comes out? And so if you spend enough time doing that in the beginning, you're gonna have a good foundation and you can start placing everything else on top. But you could also take the other approach, right, and just kind of do, kind of some mini kind of trick here or some little hack here, but it's not going to give you a full picture, right? What Jesus is telling you guys is that set your foundation so your ears are attracted to the same thing that the native speaker's ears are attracted to, and from there you'll start to see how everything branches out and gets connected um, together. So
Yep.
yeah, I mean, I totally agree, and that's how I start my students out. And, it is it's sometimes even kind of a battle to say, like, to really get them to understand, like, how this is going to pay off in the future, right? Listening to this vibration, making this sound here, just doing
Yeah.
that,
That's the
right, is going
anchor.
to
Yeah.
transform into your American accent eventually. But you guys got to think about it like the gym. And, if you got most of you guys have never really been to a gym with a real trainer, right? And that trainer is going to make you guys do stuff that in the beginning is not going to be that fun. Eventually, you get better at it.
Yep.
So, all right. I mean, do you have any other tips or recommendations for people to study materials or focus points or anything like that?
Yep. Probably. mm, Beyond placement, you can probably um, really understand that the the rhythmic structure of English really requires that some things stand out and others, be reduced.
Yeah,
That is foundational as well.
yeah,
Knowing what you need to emphasize over what you need to de-emphasize
yeah,
is crucial. That's how you get your listeners' attention.
yeah.
That's how you get your message
Mm-hmm.
across.
Mm-hmm.
So there's a lot of that going on too.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, yeah, I talk about all the stress. You guys can literally have mind control over us as American English speakers. Like if you guys switch up your stress and intonation enough, our ears can't resist listening.
Yeah.
We have no choice. We have to hear. It's just like if you're driving in a car, you just speed up a little bit. It's not the same as if you speed up a lot. And that's what's happening. I've heard my friend Amanda, she calls it the verbal highlighter, right, for your words. But it's something that our ears are trained to hear. And if you make that contrast, the right way and big enough, we will always hear what you say. But if it's not obvious the difference, it's really easy for our ears to drift off and our minds to drift off. So,
Yeah.
um, yeah, I think that those two things, if you could master those two things, hearing the voice from inside the body, not the mouth, and hearing the differences, you could really transform the way you start to think about the language. All right, well, Jesus, what can the
Do we have any
people?
questions in the chat by any chance?
Good question. Good question. I don't think we have questions in the chat, so
I was hoping there'd be some
yeah, I
there.
think that when we switched, we lost a couple viewers, but we'll probably
We
get
must have,
something
yeah.
on the replays. So guys, if you're watching
Yeah,
this on the replay, make sure to drop your questions for Jesus in the chat or for me.
I'll do my best to answer them.
So Jesus, what can people expect from you in the future? What do you have coming up? What services are you offering? How can people work with you? What can we expect coming from you?
I have a Preply account, if you know what that is.
Okay.
Um, it's there.
Okay.
So definitely, I mean, if you want to work with me one on one, um, I'm more than willing to do it and to sit down with you, listen to you, and see what we can do. Other than that, I've been trying to post at least one thing a week on my Instagram and YouTube. My primary audience is Spanish speakers, but don't feel discouraged by that if you're interested in working, because I also consider myself a traditional ESL teacher. So I can also help you with grammar and vocabulary, things like that. But pronunciation is my focus. So I can definitely work with any language
Yeah.
background there. But the bulk of my experience is with native Spanish speakers.
Yeah. Yeah, guys. I mean, I can speak from experience that most of the stuff Spanish speakers work on in terms of pronunciation is going to be very similar to all the other native languages. Maybe a little bit more intense in one area or the other, but you're generally going to be covering the same topic. So we're going to put the links for the Preply Preply. I,
I'm pretty sure it's Preply.
I know it's Preply. I have a Preply account as well. And I've taught some of the founders of Preply, and I've had
Oh,
arguments
you
with,
have?
with them about how to pronounce it.
Oh, okay, okay.
I mean, I started on that platform when it was just it was basically just an experiment for them. They didn't have any investors or anything back then. They didn't have their own classroom or anything like that.
Hmm.
But yeah, we'll put the link that you guys can work with Jesus. What is your social media? Is it Instagram or what are you posting on mostly? YouTube?
Both places. Yeah, I'm
Mm,
basically duplicating my content. Things always go to Instagram first and YouTube second. It's all under the American English Hub with Jesus Flores.
okay, cool. So we'll put that drop that stuff in the description here so you guys can reach out to him. Um and yeah, I mean if you guys again have questions, feel free to put them here. If you guys have topics you guys want us to come back and talk about or deep dive into more, once we figure
You know what?
out. Go ahead.
Sorry to
No
interrupt
worries.
you there. You know what we should do one day, Josh? We should do an accent analysis together, kind of like the ones that you do in your other lives. I'd be, I'd be happy to try my hand. I one of those and see if I can, dissect it as well as you do.
I think you can, man. I mean, I go back and I watch those things that I do, and I'm like, yeah, I listen, I heard that, but there's like three other things that I could have pointed out in the same sentence.
Yeah,
So everybody hears something different at one time or another, and the more you listen to it, so I think that'd be a great idea for us to collab on. I would like I was gonna say, just as soon as I get better at the technical side of the live streaming because you guys
yeah.
it is a whole different job. I mean teaching is not the same as all this tech stuff and integrating the different the different programs. So um
Different skill set.
it is, but I'm getting better so you guys I'm bringing more live stuff, more content all the time. So that was awesome, Jesus. I mean I would definitely be happy to keep on collaborating with you, and keep
Yeah,
even talking
absolutely.
more
Yeah,
about the Columbia America experience. I think we could continue with some of those topics in an
absolutely.
interesting
Yeah.
way. So
All
cool,
right.
man.
Cool. Cool
All right,
stuff.
well, I'm
Good
gonna I'm
stuff.
gonna I'm gonna go down to Terminal. I'm gonna go to Medallo. Go visit some friends after this. Jesus, I'm sure you have plenty of stuff going on in Battle Creek. So it was great talking to you, man, and we'll do this again soon, man. Take care, bro.
Absolutely.
All
Take
right,
care.
later.
Bye. See ya.